Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of SEC State of Mind, presented by FanDuel. I'm Taylor Davis, joined as always by my co-host Jason Campbell, and we are thrilled to welcome in a guest for today. It feels very appropriate given Iron Bowl week, a guy that knows a thing or two about playing in that one. Back-to-back national championships during his time at Alabama, now hosting a podcast called The Dynasty as well. We're so excited to get AJ McCarron's take on the Big Iron Bowl this week. What's up, AJ? Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I appreciate y'all having me. It's good to be on with the old man again. And
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It was a matter. It took us 5 seconds, AJ, before the shots are fired. But J Cam,
listen,
have at it.
He deserves it after going to my rookie dinner in Cincinnati and buying multiple bottles of wine that I thought would be like, Mobile price. And no, it wasn't. It was more like $800 a bottle.
Jason.
AJ, man, I wouldn't have you spend $800 on a bottle, but
it was up there. It was like $300.
We did make him spend some money on his rookie dinner.
Oh boy!
And it paid off for him though. The guys. When you're a quarterback, I'm sorry he didn't get NIL money. I'm sorry, AJ, that Alabama didn't pay you NIL money. It wasn't in place when we was in school. Otherwise, you'd got paid some real money. In Alabama, you'd have been a millionaire before you even got to the pros. But
I should have went to Auburn and got that under the table money, huh?
Okie dokie. Here we go.
There's no such thing as under the table money at Auburn.
All right. I may have to play referee in this one more so than host, but here we go, everybody. It is rivalry week, and it is loaded with a lot of obviously intense games given the rivalry element, but what's at stake for the playoff, for conference championships, not just in the SEC, across college ball right now. I mean, you've got a lot of chaos scenarios in the ACC. You've got chaos scenarios in the Big 12. If Arizona State doesn't win Friday night, Texas Tech is in. If they don't, BYU's kind of sitting there. So there's a lot that still is on the table, and obviously no shortage of implications on the line during this Iron Bowl, and it sets up for an all-important one down in Jordan-Hare, and both of these guys have experienced this rivalry firsthand. So we're going to get their take on that, but we're going to start the way we always do around here, AJ. We've got a couple weekly awards we like to give out, and obviously it's the last week of regular season, so we've had a lot to look at, a lot to evaluate. We start with the good around here, so it's called our SEC Standout, just something that has caught your attention. It can just be from this past week. It can be the entirety of season. So something that has stood out to you in the Southeastern Conference so far. AJ McCarron, what you got?
I got the play of Gunnar Stockton. I think he is the best quarterback right now in the SEC, playing top 3 in all of college football. He has developed his game as a passer that I think a lot of people doubted coming into this year, especially how last season ended for him. And I think ever since the Tennessee game where, the talk around going into that game was they don't throw the ball deep. They don't take chances with him. They play it safe. And they came out that game slinging it all over the field. So I think when you look at his play from that week on has been just as good, if not better than everybody else in the country.
And he does it with the most composure. I mean, my guy almost hates the spotlight. All his interviews are about 2 answers in his question. Like, he just has such a composure about him on and off the field. So I love that pick. Jay, who's your standout?
Yeah, I would say up to 3 weeks ago, coming into this whole entire season and then watching the middle of the season, I've always said Gunnar Stockton, I think most of the time. I think I've said Marcel Reed probably a few times and Ty Simpson a few times. And this week, I'm going to have to go with the newcomer, the true freshman from Auburn. And, Deuce Knight got his opportunity to play. And everyone's kind of been watching. AJ, you can sit over there and smile. I'm just saying, like, it's the guy's
just low-hanging fruit.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, it's the first game. Hey, it's been a rough season for Auburn. I got to hang my hat on something. And I finally get a chance outside of Xavier Atkins being that dude. I get a chance to talk about, this talented young freshman quarterback that came out, had 6 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. But the first play of the game, he goes 75 yards on the scramble. And, for someone that hadn't had a lot of practice time, haven't had much time with the ones, like he looked like, he belonged. And I think, down the road, time will tell how much he continues to develop. I just thought for your first game as a true freshman, I had to give him the SEC standout because to put up 6 touchdowns, I don't care if you're playing Jones Junior High School, it's still impressive to go out there and have that kind of performance in your opening week.
Especially for a guy that's coming in with a lot of hype around him. And so your debut does come with a lot of weight. So I totally agree with you there. I'm going a bit more specific. I'm going Oklahoma defensive end Taylor Wine out of this past couple of weeks. With R. Mason Thomas not playing, you feel like they're not going to have the same kind of, maybe it would be more by committee, but for this guy to take full advantage of his opportunity, he had 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 TFLs, and a QB hurry. He leads the team with 14 TFLs, 6 total sacks, which is just a half behind R. Mason Thomas. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't as familiar with him coming into season, but the past few weeks, he has really made a splash. I mean, he got a hand on that missed field goal in the Alabama game because he leapfrogged the entire freaking line. So this guy's a freak athlete, and I think he's really made a splash with R. Mason Thomas sidelined. So with the good, there's bad. AJ McCarron, that's how it is in the game of football. That's how it is in life. So we swap and look at SEC Siren. And look, it is week 14 of the regular season. So this one might be red alert at this point, but just something that's concerned you a little bit.
Well, I think it's the entire situation of Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
Totally.
I think the way he has handled this whole deal has been a setback for him as a coach, as a person of character that, or at least what he's worked up to this point, going to the coaching rehab of under Coach Saban and kind of building his character back up and doing it the right way and going to FAU and then going from there to Ole Miss. I think after being 6 years at Ole Miss, the last month and a half has really just ruined everything he built, the way he's handled it. So that's a massive issue for me. I think from the trolling standpoint, trolling your fans, the way he's handled social media. Now there's this thing out about, getting players to tweet this one deal and they left it in quotations. And now it's like, okay, well, who did that come from? And the tweets now deleted. I mean, there's just so many. You had a record-breaking crowd attendance at the Ole Miss Florida game, and you go on the post-game press conference, and the first thing you bring up is the crowd at the Citadel game.
Yep.
The week before, like, what are you doing?
Totally.
And it's good for Ole Miss. Props to their AD, their president. Basically, I've heard from multiple people within the program and that are connected well with Ole Miss saying, hey, they gave him a deadline. He's got till Saturday and he's going to give us a decision. And if he doesn't, then we'll move on without him. And we're not going to be treated as little Ole Miss anymore. And I think it takes people like that in this era of college football to stick up for your university and the school that you're representing and tell coaches, listen, we're not going to play your games of wanting to bounce around and leave us in limbo. We got a decision to make and we got to find a coach to take over. And, but I think that's a massive siren for not only the SEC, but all of college football.
Completely agree. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this show, and it's frustrating because Ole Miss is putting together a historic season and it's being overshadowed by the conversation around the head coach. And it will be the case in the Egg Bowl. You've got a Friday slot. You've got, a Starkville environment that has tested teams this year. And the entire storyline is around where is Lane Kiffin coaching. It's just upsetting that has been the umbrella story on what has otherwise been a very successful year in Oxford. But Jay, who do you have as your SEC Siren this week?
I totally agree with AJ on this one. I think I said it last week, Ole Miss for me, because the simple fact that you try to tell your kids to buy in to what you're preaching, right? And as a coach, you're trying to lead this team to the playoffs. Like they've had 4 10-win seasons out of 5 years. They've yet to make the playoffs, but now they're there. They win this Friday, they're in. Now the question is, if they're in, is he's coaching, is he's calling plays. He's not just a coach, he's the play caller for this football team. So that's a huge, lift off Ole Miss if he's not able to be there. It takes all the accolades off you having a shot to go win a national championship. But my overall siren is on the NCAA. Move back signing day. Because the whole thing is all of this is happening so fast, and there's going to be a domino effect that happens this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the signing day is next Wednesday, and because signing day is upon you, and there's so much pressure for these coaches and everyone, the administration, say, hey, we got to know who's intact because we got to get guys on the phone immediately with these certain recruits and everything. And then there's dead period. Dead period starts Monday. You cannot recruit anymore past Monday. So any coach that gets hired Saturday or Sunday, they immediately got 24 hours to get on the phone and try to figure out how to work a fast-growing relationship if they're not already know this kid, to try to keep this kid committed to your program. So to me, I think signing day need to be moved back because playoffs are getting ready to happen. There's championship games that's going to happen next weekend and the conferences, and all the focus is on where's this coach going? Where's that coach going? And there's nothing about the great season that Ole Miss has had. There's nothing about the great season that, maybe Tulane or some of these other people are having, right? Because everybody is coming and saying, okay, this coach is going there. And it's all distractions. You teach football players all the time to lessen distractions and going into games. We talk about it all the time. AJ knows this. This is one of the top things is, Coach Saban used to always say, don't listen to the rat poison. When we was in the pros and stuff, it was like, hey, block out the noise on the outside, keep tunnel vision. But it's hard for these kids to do this. These 18 to 23-year-old kids that you're talking to, and some of them are men, and you're telling them to focus on the task at hand. But Friday they play Mississippi State, but they don't know if this is the last game for their coach. They can wake up Saturday morning, all of a sudden he's an LSU Tiger. Like, what a whirlwind of 24 hours it can be. And I think the decision has already been made. I think when you're in these situations, you don't make a decision. All of a sudden you wake up on Saturday morning, you saying, oh, I'm going here. The decision already been made. They just can't probably announce it or decide what they're going to do as far as like all the other paperwork and stuff until he's officially finished the season or the regular season. And now he can make his announcement.
Where they're in a sticky situation with this is, one, I think part of it with his son Knox playing in the semifinal playoff game, try not to take spotlight away from him. But you also, with his contract, right, I think part of the reason why so many people or his players are tweeting out stuff about playing for him and everything is because he wants to coach in the playoffs. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, right? Mm-hmm. So he wants to be a coach at LSU, most likely is what I'm hearing. It's a done deal. But he also wants to coach Ole Miss. That's not fair to Ole Miss. It's not fair to the kids that committed there for Lane. And then I think this doesn't get talked about enough either because they changed it to where you got one portal window. But even where they put that's an issue because it's too close to the start of the new year. One thing I have a big issue with NCAA is back in the day, it used to be about getting an education, bettering your life, being a first time, like a guy like me, first time graduate from college ever in the history of my family. And it was how to make you a better person. I feel like now it's how messed up can we make it for you, right? You're able to transfer as much as you want. The credits don't transfer to the new school, right? So by the time you leave 3 to 4 different schools in a 4 to 5 year span, you don't even have a degree. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And then these kids don't realize, like, not maybe 3 out of a whole team, usually just based off percentages and numbers, are going to make it in the NFL and actually play past getting vetted.
Yep.
Right. That's why the average lifespan in the NFL is 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. So then you're not vetted in the NFL, so you're not getting any benefits from that. You were there a short time. You probably blew the money that you had from a little sign-on bonus you got. And then you're back on the streets where you don't have a degree. You don't have any connection to a university. You can't go to an alumni and say, hey, I graduated from here.
Right.
Or remember all the years I put in. Can you help me out? Like, there's no family. There's no unity. There's no brotherhood. Like, we're messing these kids up more than we do anything by doing this. And last year's numbers in the portal, I think, were around 10,000 kids. Right. We only talk about the ones that make the newspaper that are the top players that are able to go play and transfer and play somewhere else.
Yep.
Now, this year's there's 7,000 kids. Probably 80% of those kids won't sign to another Division I school. They're going to go Division II, JUCO, and then they're lost in the shuffle forever. Hardly any of them make it out of that. It's an absolute mess. I'm with Jay on that. It's a major concern for the NCAA.
Yeah, we are certainly in agreement in that regard. And Jason has always been very vocal about that, specifically because of his experience at Auburn and how close-knit that 04 team was and the relationships that they all built. I mean, several of them have come on the show, and it's like no time has passed. And unfortunately, I think so many elements of that have gotten lost in the shuffle, along with the fact that you're getting your education, and all of those elements, I think, have fallen to the wayside a little bit. But the pendulum's got to swing back, you got to think. So some of this is hopefully going to eventually settle. But before we transition here to the Iron Bowl preview, my SEC Siren kind of perfectly leads us into that conversation. And I really don't mean this as any kind of slight. I think it's factual. The SEC Siren, just a little bit of, hey, this has to be tight, is Alabama special teams. I think that the past few weeks you've seen, unfortunately, a little bit of drama and controversy around Connor Talty, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. Obviously, you don't like to see the guy publicly doing what he did on the field to his snapper or holder, but he was booed last week. Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ. That was wild to me when he's taking the field and his own fan base. And to some degree, I mean, Cole Kubelik tweeted immediately. It was a terrible look for the kicker. Don't get me wrong. But you're adding another mental element to this. And we have seen in Iron Bowl's past, special teams play a major role. And you're going into a Jordan-Hare environment that is guaranteed to be electric. You don't want your kicker at all wondering if his own fan base is against him as well. So I don't like all of that heading into this Iron Bowl week. And I think special teams really has to be very sound for both sides. I think Auburn has had their issues in that as well. But given the drama associated with Alabama special teams, that's my SEC Siren. But it sets up no shortage of drama, obviously, in this Iron Bowl, an SEC championship, a potential playoff spot on the line for Alabama. Auburn looking to become bowl eligible and close the season on a higher note, having gone through some drama, including the firing of head coach Hugh Freeze. You both have played in this rivalry. You both cover these respective teams very closely. Give me your keys to the game, respectively. AJ, you go ahead and get started with the Tide.
I think for Alabama, it's start fast.
Okay.
I think the opening part of both halves for Alabama and their offense is major going into this game. We've had games where we started fast and we've had games where we don't.
Yeah.
The bigger issue is the second half. I don't know what it is about our offense, but we have been horrific in the second half for most of probably the last 2 months. You scored 24 points in the first half of the Georgia game. You didn't score any after that. South Carolina game, you had 7 points going into that final drive as an offense in the second half. LSU, you scored 3 points in the second half. It has been a struggle. The OU game was the same thing. So I think if you can start fast and take that crowd out of it a little bit, you start to hear the boo birds and the doubt creep back in. If you give this team life, and we've all been a part of, coaches that have been fired, it's not always a bad thing because it brings a new life and a new juice to that team, right? Yeah. I think I told Alabama fans, you're going to see it when we played LSU. LSU is going to come out playing for Frank, and they're going to be ready to go. Yeah. Their offense just struggled, but they were in the game for, most of it. Right. So I think if you allow this Auburn team that has played extremely well on defense, they have a great, front seven. I think you're going to be in some trouble, and it's going to be a close game. So that's the biggest thing for me. And Ty's got to take care of the football. He's gone through this little slump right now of being careless with the football, throwing picks. taking too many sacks and then not hanging on to it. We got to find a way to bring his confidence back because, listen, it's no secret. Alabama, for whatever reason, is struggling to run the football. And so if you're going to struggle to run the football, you need Ty at his best, and you need him playing with a, high level of confidence. And I think those are the major things leading into it.
Jay, what you got?
Yeah, FanDuel got this at it's Alabama's 5.5 point favorite, over under 47.5. Of course, Alabama's gonna be favorite coming into this ball game. They had a better record, have had the better season so far. But AJ knows in the Iron Bowl, you can throw out records, you can throw out stats, statistics. This game is all gonna come down to heart, determination, and fight. And you got to will your way to victories in these type of games. You're talking about one of the most watched rival games across the nation. It's going to be national televised on ABC. All right. So you got Kurt Hershey calling the game and Fowler. So it doesn't get any better. Right. So the atmosphere is going to be electric. I think overall, like I say, when I watch Alabama over the last couple of weeks, running the football has been a struggle. And that has been their Achilles heel to their offense. I think coming into this game, they only have 1,300 some rushing yards on the season. And compared to Auburn, they have 1,970 yards on the season. So you're talking about a 600-yard gap in rushing the football. That means Alabama kind of got pass happy. And when you get pass happy, you do put pressure on your quarterback because now the defensive ends, they pin their ears back. They try to create you in a box and they try to come at you and squeeze you in. And that's when those turnovers happen. That's why you see Ty Simpson forcing the football and things you just don't normally see because he feels like, okay, I got to carry this weight and will us to a victory. But those type of things get you in trouble all the time. It's the same thing that we saw with Jackson Arnold early in the year with Auburn. Is when we couldn't run the football in certain games and you ask him to drop back and pass, those defense ends pinning back their ears. And next thing you know, he's getting hit left and right. And you have nothing to take the pressure off. And the thing that Auburn's gotten better at over the last couple of weeks is they're getting the ball out of the quarterback hand. They're allowing their playmakers to make plays when they're one-on-one. I think Auburn's success is going to have to come in this game is defensively. They can't do what they did against Vanderbilt and allow them to keep going up and down the field, scoring touchdowns. And you can't do the same thing you did against Mercer last week in the first 3 drives where you let Mercer go up and down the field and score touchdowns. So you got to come out early in this ball game. You got to set the tone. You got to set it to, hey, this is not, it may not be a high scoring game. This may be one of those 17, 14, type ball games. Who knows? If both defenses come to play, because that's been the strength of both teams this year, is their defenses. If both of them come to play in this ball game, it may be a field goal game. It may be bend but don't break style defense. But to me, when you think about this ball game, my playmakers, Ryan Williams and Bernard, those guys for Alabama are they top 2 receivers, right? You look at Auburn, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton. Who's going to be that number 3 receiver for each team to make the big catch and the big play? Because it always comes to your big guys going to have attention paid to them, right? There's no where Alabama comes to the game and say, oh, we're not going to double Cam on some play. We're not going to try to press Eric Singleton when we can. You're going to force your number 3. There's no way Auburn come into this game and say, oh, we're just going to let Bernard just get one-on-one all the time. And we're just going to let Ryan Williams, who's an in-state kid, just decide he wants to get one-on-one. These defensive coordinators are too good. They're going to make sure your number 3 receiver is going to have to show up in this ball game. And for Auburn, whether that's Perry Thompson or whether that's Malcolm Simmons, if you look at for Alabama, is that Isaiah Horton, third receiver on their team? Is that him for them? So those are going to be the players that I think has to show up in this ball game. The difference for Alabama and Auburn is Alabama actually has a tight end that they throw the ball to a lot. We don't utilize our tight ends a lot in the passing game. So this may have to be a game where we have to design something for the tight end to hold those safeties from being able to go over top of Cam Coleman or Eric Singleton so you can create some matchups. So it's going to come down to matchup football. It's going to come down to who protects the football the most. And like I said, kicking game. It really does come down to kicking game. And, AJ knows a lot about this in a lot of games. Taylor, you do too, covering games. How many games this year has come down to kicking the ball at the end to win games or sending it to overtime? I think this is no different. I think which kicker gets going early in this ball game to get confidence will pay off later in the ball game.
It's also such an interesting kind of juxtaposition of what's been happening lately, because it feels like in the past couple of weeks, Auburn has looked better than they have all season. They've had such a different offensive identity, offensive output and production. And the past couple of weeks for Alabama have seemed a little disjointed and different from the weeks prior, where we've been sitting here on this show saying Alabama is the most dominant team. So it is interesting which team is going to elevate in this game, because I think that both have kind of had differences in the past couple of weeks, but which sustains those differences, I think, is going to be very telling. There's also a lot of similar strengths. Jay, I loved that point that you made. Both have their two obvious targets. Well, that means both defensive coordinators are preparing to take those guys out of the mix. Who's got the best third? I think that there's little nuances like that come into play. But I also think the quarterback position, and obviously we've got basically quarterback hour here with the two of you, so I'd be remiss to not ask you to break down that position for me a little bit, each respective guy. Jason, we know on Auburn's side, they specifically sat Ashton Daniels last week so that he would be eligible for the Iron Bowl without burning his red shirt. So we know, as good as Deuce looked, it's going to be Ashton Daniels. I mean, you would think my family knows that I'm recording a podcast right now. So sorry. We know that it's going to be Ashton Daniels, even though Deuce looked great. And AJ, you were kind of touching on Ty Simpson. We've seen greatness. We've seen a little bit of regression. So each of you kind of give me your take on when it's played at its best. Alabama and Auburn have what at the quarterback position? AJ, go first.
Well, I think, listen, when Ty was playing well, I think you could argue he was, possibly the best in the country,
Elite,
right?
yes.
I mean, he was already getting talked about of being a top 10 pick coming out this year. And then I think that's kind of fallen off a little bit. I don't know if it's so much on Ty. Do I think Ty's a good quarterback? Yes. Listen, we were talking about their receivers. Alabama's loaded. I mean, they got three dudes. Isaiah Horton could be a number one for a ton of schools. Bernard is definitely, I think he's our number one. You got Ryan. You still got Rico Scott, who's an unbelievable young player. Ladzier Brooks is another one. Cuevas at tight end. When you got that many weapons, it helps your job. But I don't think it's close. And Jay might be biased, but taking my crimson glasses off, I don't think comparing the two universities and their QBs is even close. I think Ty's played better than anybody Auburn has had all year. You just got to get Ty's confidence back. And that's the biggest thing. I think you got to have, like Jay talked about, you got to have other guys come in to this game and take some of the load off of him. And I think Ryan Grubb's got to be in his bag in this game, calling this game. I think you got to have some trick plays. You got to have some plays that are not the norm, that kind of catch Auburn off guard. And I think us playing up tempo. The other issue I really had with Ty and our offense this year is when you watch our games, we run the play clock down to 1 second every time. I mean, it's insane. I don't understand it. And then when you look at us go to a 2-minute offense, we've been unstoppable, right? Because we're not having to have Ty there, sit at the line forever, Grubb look at the defense, then call in a play, then Ty's got to check out of it and change protection and everything. When you're in 2-minute offense, I mean, Jay knows this. Like, you're on the left hash, you were in my time you were in train right, so it's trips right. You were on the right hash, you were in 2x2, which we call dolphin right. Like, and you knew what the protection was based off of what hash you were on, and you knew your issues with that protection. You didn't change it. It was set hut, let's go. If they bring two this way, we're hot, we're playing hot, let's play fast. And I think when our offense does that, we're at a whole nother level. When we slow the game down so much and put so much on Ty from a check standpoint, I think teams have figured that out. They have brought a ton more pressure. I mean, you look at Venables and you look at LSU game, like teams have start to key in on that and bring a lot more pressure. And I think that's caused us some issues. So I think from a quarterback argument standpoint, though, I don't think it's been close.
Totally.
AJ.
I was waiting on it.
You know, I let you off the hook the entire episode.
Dear.
Know this game's not going to worry about who has the most experience.
Oh boy.
I say this. Two quarterbacks coming into this game with two different styles of play, but I would also say confidence, right? Ty Simpson is coming into this game probably a little bit more nervous because he's had his confidence shaken over the last couple of weeks. I think Ashton Daniels is coming into this game feeling super confident because of the game he had against Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the road, tough environment, tough team. And I think he's itching at the bit to say, I got all the confidence now coming into the Alabama game because his last game looked really well, right? When you talking about Ty Simpson, this is the Iron Bowl, and this is what both of them has. Zero experience as a starter in the Iron Bowl. So both of these guys going to lace it up for the first time Saturday with their first snap in this rivalry game. And whoever can contain themselves emotionally early in this ball game, because you're going to get hit early, you're going to have the opportunity to make a big throw, or you're going to have an opportunity to give it to the other team. Whichever quarterback comes out and set the tone early in this ball game is going to get his teammates confidence. But you're right, though. I give you this point, AJ. You're exactly right when you think Ty Simpson should be the guy with the most confidence in this thing because of his overall yearly experience. The guy still has 22 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and he still has almost 3,000 yards passing, right? So when you look at his numbers, there was one point as well that we talked about him on this, like he's so calm, cool, and collective. And that's what I saw from him in a lot of games where he would stare down the blitz to hit him in the mouth. He still would stand there and make throws. Recently, it seemed like since he had a couple of turnovers in the Oklahoma game, and then last week he had a few turnovers, it seemed like since then he's gotten in his own head to the point where I think Ty Simpson is trying to play perfect for Alabama fans rather than playing within himself and playing within the team and going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to sling the rock around like I did in the middle part of the season and not worry about if I make a mistake or two. But that's the thing. If you start listening to the headlines and you start listening to what people are saying, then you start to play to the way you want people to see you play. And then that's when you get out of the rhythm of being the quarterback that you've been since the Florida State game. You learned so much and you became a stellar quarterback, but now you're regressing because you're trying to please the fan base. And I think for that, I think it puts more pressure on Ty coming into this ball game because he thinks I got to carry Alabama to the playoffs. Instead of thinking like, no, we as a team got to carry Alabama to the playoffs. And I think that's the thing that's in his mindset right now is he got to eliminate the doubt and all those different things of because I had a few turnovers, because you know how it is, AJ, when you play the quarterback position at any of these schools, and especially the success that you guys have had over the last couple of years here and everything, when you think about that as a whole, you do uphold a lot of pressure at that quarterback position. Y'all have had some Heisman winners. Y'all have had some guys win double national championships like yourself. So you think about it like, oh, I got to carry the weight to be the next Alabama great quarterback. But we lost to Oklahoma. Has that thrown everything out the window because everybody was talking about me going to New York and being one of the Heisman guys to now everyone's trying to figure out where's he at? You know, where's the Ty Simpson we saw before the Oklahoma game? And I think now he's starting to pressure on that part of things. But I think for Auburn, if you're, you know, Ashton Daniels, you're coming to this game like, dang, man, my freshman quarterback lit it up last week. You know, like mentally as a quarterback, as a competitor, right? We're going to be like, man, I got to come out here and do something this week. So for Ashton Daniels, you can't come into this ball game and feel like I got to showcase to the fan base that I can still be a quarterback here at Auburn. And now I'm just going to start doing things out of my norm because I'm trying to prove to the fan base because of what they saw last week against Deuce. Let's call it what it is. Deuce had a great confidence game, but it was against a lesser opponent, right? Yeah. He hasn't been able to play against a top-tier opponent yet, but he did a great job with what he had the opportunity to play against. Now, with that being said, Ashton, that's not your job. Your job is come out here and lead this football team this weekend against Alabama. And you go out there and you play as best as you can play. But quarterbacks have got to get out of this norm of I got to prove myself to the fan base because you're never going to win that battle. AJ, as great as you could play at Alabama, you win double national championship, you'll still get criticism about something.
Oh, yeah, it's never enough.
That's just the natural fact of playing this position.
Yeah.
And you're judged in this game on your wins and losses. When you're a starting quarterback in the Alabama and Auburn rivalry game, you're judged on wins and losses. People don't look at your stats. They don't remember that. They remember that you win in 2025, that you win in 2012, that you win in 2013, that you win in 04 or 03. They remember those that you win the game. Mm-hmm. So in these guys' mindset, I'm going to do whatever I can to will my team, to help will my team to win. But I'm still going to be aggressive. I'm not going to play in a box.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an issue, though, that he sat out last week? Because we've played the game long enough.
Right.
It's never fun as a quarterback when you're out a week and then all of a sudden you got to come back into live action. I mean, things are moving fast. Like, it takes a minute to get back used to it. You think that hurts Ashton at all?
I think early in the ball game, we got to get him into a rhythm. I do think, because that's a great point. And I say that because we had a bye week after Vanderbilt game. And then we played Mercer. So that's 2 weeks. And then by the time he laced it up this Saturday, that's 3 weeks since he's taken a snap. Mm-hmm. So that is a key point, right? So if you're Auburn, how can I get, because last week you were spending a lot of time trying to get Deuce prepared for Mercer and Jackson. How much practice time did Ashton get a week ago? How much practice time he's going to get this week? Because you're going to have to overload him with a lot of things to get him back into rhythm and everything. Because when I look at this Alabama defense, you're talking about Overton got 4 sacks. Alabama defense got 23 sacks, 9 interceptions, and 12 forced fumbles on the year. Jeez. So that means you got to be control the football when you're in the pocket. You can't have that thing loose. And then on the opposite side of it, if you're Alabama, you better know where Xavier Atkins is. 81 tackles on the year, 7.5 sacks, 1 interception. So both of these teams got some dudes on defense. And ironically, they're at the linebacker position. Yes, Auburn has Kedrick Falk and Keyron Crawford, but at the end of the day, these linebackers on both of these teams can hit, they can fly, they can make things happen. And so you got to be able to hold on to the football because Alabama will come after you with some pressures. And to me, since it's been 3 weeks since he's taken a snap, that messes up your rhythm.
I think it's a really great point and something that you will need to see early. I also like, AJ, you mentioning the need to get off to a fast start for Alabama for Ty Simpson's confidence. You also got to do your due diligence to try and take the crowd out of this. Because one thing we know about Auburn fans, you give them the tiniest bit of hope and they're going to show up. It will feel like a Denning Super Bowl in Jordan-Hare because of what's on the line for this one, no doubt about it. But it's going to be an incredible environment. Rivalry week across the board is going to be incredibly compelling and impactful football to close out the regular season, which is what you want. But AJ McCarron, so grateful that you took some time to come and chat with us today on SEC State of Mind. You've got your own podcast that people can check out, though. Where can they find you?
Yeah, we're on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can find a podcast. I was going to ask, especially on YouTube as well. I was going to ask Jay, at halftime, is there any more planned made-up national championships this week?
Oh, geez.
Hey AJ, you know what? I can go all the way through Alabama. Goodness. I can go all the way through Alabama's list of how many national championship 8-3 teams, 6-4 teams being named national champions. At least we had a legitimate say in being able to be national champs. Now let me ask you this question. I wasn't even going to ask you this question. But since we going there, let's just have some fun with the people.
Oh, dear.
I've always heard the Auburn side of things in 2013, of the kick six. I never got a chance to hear from the player perspective on the Alabama player on the side when 1 second was put back on the clock. Tell me what was really honest. I really wanted to know this, because
I wasn't gonna go there either. But since we're here,
the only fun fact
locker room, but I wanted the fan base to hear on both sides what was going on the sideline when they put 1 second back on there, and you're standing there and. In your eyes, how did that look?
I thought we were gonna just throw a Hail Mary, or just take a knee and go into overtime. They were having a really tough time of stopping us. We were actually playing well. I mean, they tied the game up with that, zone read, and then Nick Marshall pulled it late and then tossed it. But I thought if we just go into overtime, we win that game.
Yep.
But fun fact, that's the only kick of my entire college career. So I was a holder for 4 years. That's the only kick I didn't hold for in my entire career.
Wow.
So we're standing there, and Saban's like talking to Bobby Williams, who's the special teams coordinator. And he's like, well, are we going to let Cade? And Cade had missed like 5 field goals already and like 2 extra points. And then the one he finally made, we got called false start. And I was like, it's all right. It's 5 yards. You're going to make it. And he looked at me like, no, I'm not.
Oh, no.
And so the next one was so far left, it hit the corner of the end zone. And so they said, we're going to go with the backup, Griff. And Cody Mandel was our punter, and he had been working with him, I guess. I'm like, it ain't that hard. You just hold the ball, hold it upright, and then lean it some. Like, he should be able to kick it. And but the funny thing is, watching it, I mean, I knew he was gone when he got towards the edge. I'm like, well, I'm just going to head to the tunnel before they rush this field and I get trapped. But I saw Gus at the award show later in Orlando at the end of the year, and Gus is sitting at the bar, and me and Dad loved Gus. He was awesome. And so we go up to him, and like, I told him, I said, hey, you might have returned, Chris might have returned that kick. I said, but you would have got depleted, because I was coming in and I was going to just suplex somebody on the Auburn sideline. If I'm going to go out that way, like, somebody's getting hit.
For sure.
Like, I'm jumping up and just putting both cleats right in the middle of that vest. And but he started laughing. But, listen, that's one of those things. They were just destined for that. I mean, you look at the week before on the 4th and 18 versus Georgia, 2 defenders, and they can't knock the ball down. And it bounces right to
Ricardo.
Lewis. Yeah. And I mean, it's just one of those things. I remember telling Trey Mason, like, I was rooting for him. I was hoping they would go beat Florida State. But listen, we tried to gift y'all one, and you still couldn't get it.
Put it this way, though. What's the mindset coming into the Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare, though? Because it's different sometimes than when you guys play us there. But coming into the Iron Bowl as the quarterback, what's going through Ty Simpson's head on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's tough. It is a loud crowd at all times. I mean, it's one of those things. That's why I said, like, it's one of those things where I think it's a culmination of everybody playing well. I think it's Ryan Grubb being in his bag. You know, I kind of look at this game like 2011 playing there, where we came out, we were throwing the ball all in the first half. But we hit a couple big trick plays. We hit a flea flicker for a touchdown. We hit a you remember the play? We called it Oakland, but it was like the Y hide.
Yeah.
And so he gets lost in the bootleg, like they're blocking down, and we hit that for a touchdown. Like, we had some trick plays that really, when you hit those type of plays, like, it takes the crowd out, because the crowd's like, gosh, Lee, like, no matter what they run right now is just working. And it helped that game. Like, we took the crowd out in the first half, and then the second half it was, all right, let's just go out and play our game. We have a big lead now. Like, let's take care of the football, continue to score some points. But I think it's one of those games, because I'm dead serious. I really think this is a setup game for everything Auburn does well from a defensive side. Alabama's defense, and I think Kane Womack hasn't gotten enough credit.
Agreed.
You know, everybody wanted him fired last year, and now he's going to be a head coach in the SEC probably after this season. But I think you got to take this crowd out. You got to play well, and Ryan Grubb's got to be in his bag. But it's not an easy place to play at. I'll tell you that, and it's haunted. So
it is. Some weird voodoo things happened. That 2013 year, that was my senior year. So the Iron Bowl was my final game in Jordan-Hare as a student. And if it makes you feel any better, I got trampled storming the field. So it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for us Auburn fans. Storming the field should be done with a good insurance policy. I'll tell you that. So with that, we are going to close this out. Our producer told us to keep it at 30 and we're at 45. So we're going to wrap this one up. AJ McCarron, thank you so much for joining us. your insight and your coverage of the Tide, as well as college football in general. Your insight was awesome. For joining us, and have a great Thanksgiving week.
Y'all too.
I appreciate you, AJ, coming on. I owe you a dinner.
Yeah, you owe me some wine.
$800 bottles of wine. We got it.
See y'all.
All right, Captain, the kids say hello.
Yep, will do.
All right, bro.